And the fourth presenter is Sylvia Schwarz. Sylvia is with the International Jewish Anti-Zionist Network. Sylvia is a water and wastewater engineer professionally. She's also been very active in the leadership of Minnesota Break the Bonds, which is a campaign launched, a couple years ago to persuade the state of Minnesota to sell its State of Israel bonds. And I think she'll be talking a little bit about that in her presentation.
Thank you. I'd also like to thank everybody for coming and thank Chuck especially and Dick for putting on this historic forum. And I'm also grateful for the opportunity to have a frank and honest discussion about Jewish perspectives. Before I can address the topic of how the International Jewish Anti-Zionist Network envisions peace in Palestine, including the State of Israel, I first have to talk about our name. Specifically, why international, why Jewish, and why anti-Zionist. We are an international organization with chapters in North and South America, Europe, and Israel. Sorry.
Maybe speak a little louder.
We work with like-minded individuals and organizations in Australia, New Zealand, India, and North Africa. Steve, you were right, we are small, but we represent many more anti-Zionist Jews than there are members of IJAM, and we are growing both in membership and in influence. Why Jewish? We in IJAM believe we have a unique role to play in this issue. For more than a century, Zionist Jews have claimed to speak for us. And through various tactics, the Zionists have convinced most people that all Jews think alike, that all Jews agree with Zionist ideologies and the actions of the State of Israel, and that any different perspective is evidence of anti-Jewish hatred, even when the different perspective comes from Jews. We also feel we have a special responsibility to speak and act in joint struggle with the Palestinians as an oppressed people. First of all, because Zionists have insisted there is a dichotomy between Jews and Palestinians, and that Jews must be privileged above non-Jews. We believe this special status is racist. As important and historic as this panel is, it also privileges Jewish voices above Palestinian ones, furthering the notion that some voices are more important than others. Secondly, most of us grew up in Zionist households and were indoctrinated with Zionist ideals. For many Jews, it is a cultural norm to contribute money to the Jewish National Fund. What many Jews do not know is that the JNF facilitates the expulsion of Palestinian people from their land and covers the crimes of ethnic cleansing with non-native trees. This is what the JNF calls making the desert bloom. As Jews of conscience, we feel a special responsibility because of our past participation in and contributions to organizations like the JNF. Why anti-Zionist? It's important, first of all, to understand what Zionism is. Modern Zionism is a political nationalist movement that seeks to grant a homeland to Jews. In the late 1890s, after a millennium of hatred, violence, and expulsion of Jews in Europe, the young journalist Theodor Herzl came to the conclusion that the only way to solve the Jewish question, or to keep Jews safe from persecution, was to separate them from non-Jews and allow them to attain upper-class status in a state of their own. Through Herzl's influence and supported by European imperialist aspirations, Jews began migrating to and colonizing Palestine. By the 1930s, immigrating Zionists had purchased less than 7% of the land of Mandate Palestine. And although the Zionists were still a minority in the land, their political power was great. A British labor leader at the time, Herbert Morrison, said, "The Jews have proved to be first-class colonizers, to have the real good old empire qualities." The Zionists' intentions were clear from the beginning. Ben-Gurion, in a 1937 letter to his son, said, "We will expel the Arabs and take their places." Yosef Weitz said in 1940, "There is no room for both peoples together in this country. The only solution is a Palestine, at least Western Palestine, without the Arabs." And there is no other way than to transfer the Arabs from here to the neighboring countries, to transfer all of them. Not one village, not one tribe should be left. These quotes are just two of the hundreds that show the early Zionist intention to ethnically cleanse the non-Jewish Palestinian people from Palestine. Nothing less than complete control of all the land with none of the non-Jewish Palestinians would satisfy them. And there is no way to encourage people to abandon their homes voluntarily. Violence had to be used. What Israel calls the War of Independence, Palestinians call the Nakba, or catastrophe, when more than 750,000 Palestinians were violently expelled from their homes. I am a Jew, but I'm married to a Palestinian man who was 3 years old when he was forcibly expelled from his home in Jaffa, now in Israel. He grew up in Beirut, Lebanon, but he, like the other refugees and their descendants, yearned to return to his former home within Israel. The Universal Declaration of Human Rights, which was signed and ratified by Israel, is clear that it is an inalienable right for people to return to their homes. Yet in Israel, in order to keep a Jewish majority, this right is denied. It is denied through a series of laws in the Israeli legal system. As I talk about these laws, try to imagine analogous ones in the US system, privileging one ethnic group over another. In 1950, the Israeli Knesset passed the law of return, which says that any Jew anywhere in the world has the right to come to Israel. Non-Jews do not have this right. In 1952, the citizenship law was passed, giving Jews from anywhere in the world the right to citizenship in Israel. Again, non-Jews do not have this right. The Jewish National Fund's charter says that it holds land in perpetuity for Jews only. The JNF is a quasi-governmental institution which owns outright 13% of the land of Israel and administers another 80% through the Israeli Land Authority. This means that I, as an American Jew, anytime I want, I can go to Israel, I can become a citizen, and I can rent or purchase the property that my father-in-law was expelled from. But my husband, who was born there and who left involuntarily, can never go back. Needless to say, he cannot become a citizen and he cannot rent or own property there. Since the law of return and the citizenship law, numerous laws have been written in Israel privileging Jews over non-Jews. Palestinian Israeli citizens are denied educational opportunities, restricted in whom they may marry and where they may live. Palestinians in the occupied territories are denied the right to movement, to adequate water, to free speech, and even to receive visitors. The age of majority, the age at which a child can be considered an adult, for Palestinians is 12. And for Israelis, sometimes living only a few meters away, is 18. Think about that. A 12-year-old boy's voice hasn't even changed, yet he can be held as an adult in prison, and many are, as is reported in a recent study by Defense for Children International. When one ethnic group is given special privileges over another group, this is racism. Racism is not just peripheral to Zionism, it is a central property of Zionism. When it is a legalized system of racism, it is apartheid. I challenge anyone here to fashion a legal structure that gives rights and privileges to one ethnic group only, and yet simultaneously does not deny them to other groups. It cannot be done. IJAN opposes Zionism because its central core tenet is that of colonialism, racism, and oppression. IJAN believes that members of an ethnic group should not be granted special privileged status under any law, that colonizing land and ethnically cleansing people from it is unjust, immoral, and illegal. We believe that the Holocaust and 3,000 years of oppression against Jews do not justify oppression of another people. We condemn all types of racism, including anti-Jewish, anti-Arab, and anti-Islamic racism, and we do not ally ourselves with people who espouse racism or hatred of any kind. We support the 2005 Palestinian civil society call for boycott, divestment, and sanctions against Israel until Israel complies with international law. The call demands three things. One, the end of the occupation and colonization of Palestinian land, which means also the dismantling of the illegal separation wall. 2, recognizing the fundamental rights of the Arab Palestinian citizens of Israel to full equality, and 3, respecting, protecting, and promoting the rights of Palestinian refugees to return to their homes and properties as stipulated in UN Resolution 194. It should be clear that we are demanding nothing more than the inalienable rights of all human beings. Because these rights are inalienable, they are not subject to negotiation, and therefore any peace deal which does not incorporate and affirm these inalienable human rights is bound to fail. Yet I remain optimistic that we will see peace with justice in Palestine because, as Theodore Parker said, although it was often attributed to Martin Luther King Jr., the arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends towards justice. Thank you.